What's up, VC? It's Steve again, Harmless Rebel, and it's time for another hard rock and heavy metal update. Before we get started, in the background, we're listening to Bathead Soup, a tribute to Ozzy Osbourne. This is a really cool tribute. I found this at one of the local record stores, or the local music stores for, I think, $4.99. And actually, I take that back. I actually found this at Goodwill now that I think of it. So what do they charge? Like $2 there? Let's see. It's got, right now we're listening to Mr. Crowley, which is Tim Owens, Yngwie Malmsteen, Tommy Aldridge, Derek Sherinian, and Tom Bogert. You've got Over the Mountain with Mark Slaughter, Brad Gillis, Eric Singer, Gary Moon, Lemmy's on here, Dee Snider. Let's see, Jason Bonham, Dweezil Zappa. That song's the one kind of weak song. It's Lisa Loeb and Dweezil Zappa. But you got Jolynn Turner, Billy Sherwood, Jeff Scott Soto, Bruce Kulick. Let's see, Jeff Martin, Vince Neil, George Lynch, Greg Bissonette. Let's see who else. Nick Lucero, Jack Blades, and then the whole Jeff Pilson, and the whole thing is produced by Bob Kulick. So, I mean, just a killer tribute. Every song, with the exception of the one with Lisa Loeb and Dweezil Zappa, which is Goodbye to Romance. If they would have left this off the album, it would have been a perfect album. But really recommend picking this one up if you're a fan of Ozzy. So let's go ahead and get to the vinyl. This is mostly hard rock, but there is some definitely some metal in here. Let's see. Yeah, there's a bit of metal, but like I said, mostly hard rock. So let's just kind of jump in. First up, this is one I've wanted to get on vinyl for quite a while. I just never see it in good condition. The last few copies I've seen were warped pretty bad. And then I ran across this. This is actually a Dutch copy. This is Hager, Schoen, Aronson, and Shrive Through the Fire, HSAS. This is a killer album. If you haven't heard this, I think this is Hagar's best outside of the first two Montrose albums. I think this is a lot better than the stuff he did over the next couple years with Van Halen even. And I did like Van Hagar. But this is just a killer album. I wish they would have done a little bit more. Because it was definitely better than anything that Hagar or Schoen did over the next couple of years. And, you know, Schoen went back to Journey right after that. So, let's see. Westwood One. This album was recorded live. And I was reading, it may have been on Scott's site, No Life Till Metal, but he had mentioned that this was recorded live and that they had gone in and edited out the audience, and it definitely has that live sound. It's a very cool album though. If you haven't heard this, like I said, definitely check this out. The whole album's really good. There's not really a bad song on here. And it definitely has that energy that you get from a live show and the musicians. Next up, this is one I picked up a few months ago at a antique mall, and I picked it up for really cheap. This is "Deliver Us from Evil" from Budgie. I'm not really a big fan of this era of Budgie. There's a couple songs on here that I really dig, but they just didn't have that heaviness in the 80s that they did in the 70s. They kind of lost what I loved about Budgie. It's still a good album. It's still worth having in the collection. And there are some a couple of really good tracks on here. But as a whole, I think this is one of Budgie's weaker albums. So, next up, this is an album I've passed up probably a dozen times over the years. Just not knowing what it was. I almost bought it one time just because of the cool cover. And now in hindsight, I wish I would have, because that original pressing is worth some decent money. But this is the self-titled album. I believe self-titled. Yeah, from Captain Beyond. Just really good hard rock from, when was it, 72. So really good early hard rock. I really dug this, though. There is a this isn't the venticular cover, but there is a version that has that holographic or venticular cover on it. Like I said, I actually saw it in really good shape a while back for like 10 bucks, and I passed up on it because I ended up finding something I wanted more, not realizing how good this album actually is. Definitely one I recommend picking up. Next up, this is a killer album. I've seen people call this thrash, which I definitely don't think it is. I've seen people call it American power metal, which I can see. I just think it's really good straight up metal. This is Scarred for Life from Obsession. Really dug this. It's been a while since I had heard it, and I've had this copy for 4 or 5 months now, and I gave it another spin the other day. And just a great album. And Mike Becerra's vocals on here are killer. Next up, before we get to that one, hang on, let me pull something out. Next up is Loudness. And this is The Law of the Devil's Land. This one is a Dutch copy. Yeah, Netherlands. This one was VCLT from SMF Captain Howdy. I don't think this has ever been released. I don't think there's ever been a U.S. pressing of this. The first four, maybe 5 albums from Loudness were never pressed in the U.S. It wasn't until I think it was Lightning that was the first one pressed in the U.S. But just kick-ass Japanese metal. I love Loudness. I like everything that they've released, but the stuff with Minoru on vocals is definitely my favorite. And speaking of Mike Becerra from Obsession, next up we have Soldier of Fortune from Loudness. And this is the first album with Mike Becerra on vocals. Minoru had left the band for a number of years, and it's kind of weird to see a Japanese band bring in an American singer, especially when they're known for having a Japanese singer. But Mike Becerra does a good job on it. It's a really good album. I really like this. It just doesn't hold up to the earlier Loudness albums with Minoru on them. This one is a promo copy. I don't remember where I got this from, but I don't remember paying, more than $5 or $6 for it. Next up, I found this one for cheap. It's not great. It's better than their second album, but it's not something I would jump out and or I'd recommend you run out and buy. If you find it for cheap, grab it. There are some cool songs on here, but this is Standing Alone from White Wolf. I'm not sure about that. It looks more like a rat with wings to me than a white wolf, but that's just me, I guess. And there are multiple covers of this. There's a couple different covers for this album, depending on which pressing you got. Yeah, that's the U.S. pressing. Next up is Dirge Soulstorm. This is a really good album. I really dug this. This is on Anthrax Records from let's see. I remember if this is late 80s or early 90s. 1988. Really good crossover thrash. I really dug this. I had never seen this or heard of this band before, and I ran across this on the one of the YouTube auction site or pages, and I picked this up for like it was like $12 shipped. But like I said, just killer crossover thrash. I really dig this. I'm a big fan of crossover thrash anyway. This was this band. This is their first full length. They released a couple of EPs before this where they were straight up hardcore, straight up New York hardcore. But This is definitely kind of their... This is the best stuff that I've heard that they've released. Highly recommend checking this one out if you're into thrash or into crossover. Next up, we've got Target. Really cool mid-70s hard rock. This features Jimmy Jamison on vocals, who would go on to be the lead singer for Survivor. Definitely much better than the stuff he would release with Survivor, but I really dug this out. This one's really good from beginning to end. And then a couple weeks later, I ran across their second album, and this one's called Captured. This was a promo copy. What year was this? 1977. So still 70s, but you're starting to hear that AOR influence on this one. Still some really good hard rock tracks. Still worth checking out. But this is starting to lean towards that AOR side. It's not quite there, but you start hearing hints of it. And this one is a white label promo. Next up, we have the debut album from Scorpions, Lonesome Crow. This is the Canadian pressing on Bomb Records. This always cracked me up, featuring Michael Schenker from UFO. I always considered Rudolph to be the bigger star of the two. I prefer Michael Schenker myself to Rudolph, but I just always thought that this was funny because I just thought that the Scorpions and Rudolph were the bigger star. But Lonesome Crow, killer album. I hear a lot of people say that they don't like this one. I absolutely love it. And actually, this has, as I mentioned, this is on Bomb Records. Bomb has one of my favorite logos. I love that, the Bomb label. Next up, we've got a little bit more 70s hard rock. This is TKO, and this is from 1979. This is really good. One of the members of this, I can't remember off the top of my head, would go on to form Q5. Q5 was a really good Seattle metal band which featured Floyd Rose. And if you're familiar with Floyd Rose, he created he was the inventor of the lock and tremolo, which really revolutionized the way heavy metal, or helped create the way heavy metal was played. Guys like Eddie Van Halen, actually everybody, Dave Mustaine, everybody uses the lock and tremolo. But just a really good late 70s hard rock album, definitely worth picking up. This one I almost didn't buy, just based on the back. That does not look like a hard rock band, but it is in fact pretty good hard rock. And I picked this up for like $6. It was still sealed, so that was a cool find. Next up, not one of my favorites from this band, just because of the era, but this is Difficult to Cure from Rainbow. This is probably my third favorite lineup. I like Joe Lynn Turner. He just doesn't compare to the other two singers. You know, Ronnie James Dio can't be beat when it comes to Rainbow, but still an album worth having in the collection. And I mean, Blackmore's still on there and still kicking it. Next up, After the War from Gary Moore. It rhymes. But ended up finding this. This one's a white label promo too. I found this one a few months ago. I'm not a huge Gary Moore fan. I know a lot of you guys in the VC absolutely love him. I do love the stuff he did with Thin Lizzy, but he's also not my favorite guitarist from Thin Lizzy. Eric was. I loved Eric on the earlier albums. Gary Moore is still an amazing guitarist, but I just think the stuff he did with Thin Lizzy was a lot better than his solo stuff. There are some killer tracks on here. I do like this album as a whole, but all it does is make me want to listen to Thin Lizzy. And then, speaking of Gary Moore, we've also got Victims of the Future. I'm not sure. This one was 83, I believe, 84 when this one came out. I do like this one a little bit better, but still, it just makes me want to listen to Thin Lizzy. And this one, as you can tell, it's got the promo sticker on the front. This one's a white label promo as well. Sorry about my nose, man. My allergies are really bad right now. Next up, Little Miss Dangerous from Ted Nugent. I've always loved that picture. That's always cracked me up. Really good album. There were a couple albums in the 80s from him that I wasn't a big fan of, but his guitar work on this album is just amazing. And his guitar work on all albums is amazing, but overall I really like this one. I can't remember who the singer is on this one, but I really like the vocals on this as well. Just a really good, well put together hard rocker from the 80s. Next up, this is an album that just doesn't get enough credit. You know, when you're talking double live albums, I never hear this one mentioned, but it definitely should be. This is an absolute ass kicker. This is Snaz from Nazareth. Man, and it's actually a UK pressing. This is the first edition from the UK. I love everything about this album. These guys were so good live, and the vocals were just completely on point. He also does a couple covers on here, which are amazing. His cover of Cocaine, or their cover of Cocaine, I think is better than Eric Clapton ever did. I know there's some Eric Clapton lovers out there. I'm not one of them. I actually like the stuff he did with the various bands more than anything he did as a solo artist. But their version of Cocaine just blows his out of the water. And they also do a real good version of Tush on here from ZZ Top as well. But just beginning to end, this is a kick-ass live album. The vocals on here, like I said, just absolutely amazing. His vocals are just so raw live. Next up, this one was VCLT from Eric Dust, and I looked it up and saw it was Canadian AOR and wasn't expecting to like it. I'm just not a huge AOR fan, but I really dug it, surprisingly. This is Boulevard, In the Streets. It's just really well done, and I really like the whole album. I've given it a couple spins, and it just gets better with each one. Next up, this is kind of a weird album. This I bought this a couple months ago. It's literally been sitting in my record store for about 3 years, and I've seen it, you know, hundreds of times, and just passed up on it. And they were doing a on Tuesdays, everything's $2 off. They had it marked down from 12 to $8, so I picked it up for $6. This is the Royal Court of China. This is their album Geared and Primed. And I was really shocked by this album. I was really even more shocked when I saw the history of the band. They're a Nashville band, and apparently the Royal Court of China is a tribute to Led Zeppelin and The Firm. After Led Zeppelin split up and The Firm came out, apparently they were originally going to call themselves the Royal Court of China. Here's the Lisa Loeb song I was talking about. Just listen for a sec. Completely destroys the flow of the album. It just doesn't need to be here. But, you know, whatever. We'll let it play. Anyway, The Firm was supposed to be called the Royal Court of China, so they completely jacked the name. But the weird thing about this is the band was originally a alternative rock, or I'm sorry, alternative country band. And they did a couple EPs or albums that were alternative country, or country rock, I guess. And then they decided to go the sleaze route, which makes no sense. But they put out this album. It's a sleaze album, and it's really fucking good, man. I really like it. And you still get hints. I can't tell. It doesn't say it on here, show. But I'm pretty sure one of the guys is playing a Telecaster, because it's got that twang that you get from the country from country music, and especially from Telecasters. And but it's still just good sleazy hard rock, and I really dug it. Definitely a sleeper, and it probably sat there because nobody's ever heard of it. But this is a really good album. If you run across this, grab it. I highly recommend checking this one out. And then last but not least is one of the greatest albums of all time. Definitely, in my opinion, the best double live of all time. And this is actually, is this a UK pressing? Pretty sure it is. Yeah, UK pressing. But this is Live and Dangerous from Thin Lizzy. It just doesn't get any better than this. This is Thin Lizzy at their best. I love this album beginning to end. It was all filmed or recorded 76 to 77. Like I said, this is just the band at their best. Front cover, it's got the gatefold. You can see it kind of stuck together a little bit when I opened it. And it, you know, it's got the real shitty thin stock that the UK pressings use. Actually, the inserts are thicker than the stock used for the actual jacket. Just full of just killer pictures of the band live. And then it's got the UFO Vertigo logo. But like I said, it's just one of the all-time classic albums, one of the best ever, and definitely the best double live. And that's saying a lot, because there's some amazing double live albums out there, but that's the tops for me. That's it, VC. I hope you dug the update. Leave your comments. Tell me what you think. Let's get the discussion going. Take care, and I'll see you soon.